Hey there, I hope you're having an awesome day. And today we're talking about how to prevent overeating on Thanksgiving, because these are things that when you're on a weight loss journey, it is important to be able to know. It's something that I personally have struggled with most of my life. And over the past couple of years, have gotten to the point now where my relationship with food is in a really good place. I have lost 35 plus pounds. And honestly, when it comes to Thanksgiving, it can be really challenging because it's one day a year where people are kind of expected to overeat. And I wanted to help you out because I know that that can be really challenging when you're on a weight loss journey, because you're trying to lose weight, but you're also trying to gain a better relationship with food, be more comfortable around it. And Thanksgiving is really a big, it feels like a test, honestly, most of the time. And it doesn't have to feel that way. You can totally enjoy your Thanksgiving meal without feeling overly stuffed at the end of it and without it derailing all of your weight loss goals for the rest of the year. So I'm Mallory. If you haven't seen one of my podcasts or YouTube videos before, I'm the weight loss habits nutritionist, and I teach busy women how to lose weight by simplifying their weight loss habits and really digging into creating habits that make weight loss feel like it goes on autopilot. So today I'm sharing tips to prevent overeating this Thanksgiving. Tip number one, let's dive right in, is to eat well-balanced, fit-for meals throughout the day before sitting down to your Thanksgiving dinner or lunch or whatever it is that you use as like that meal, instead of saving room throughout the day until you're starving when you sit down for Thanksgiving. So this is something that I see all the time. I used to do it myself. I know that it's been done in my family. It's been done in many of the homes of women I've worked with. So it's something that you think, well, I should just not eat until we sit down to dinner, because then I have more room to eat more food and I can enjoy all of the things. And while that in theory could work, usually by saving room, air quotes, if you are on the podcast, you're not able to enjoy yourself as much. By the time you're sitting down to a meal, you are so ravenous that you're willing to eat anything on the table, whether or not you've planned on having it or not. And that can be really, really challenging. So by saving room, it just allows your body to get too hungry to the point where you end up way overeating, and then you feel sick to your stomach afterward because you ate too much. So if that sounds familiar, rather than saving room this year, try eating at least a balanced fit for breakfast before Thanksgiving lunch or dinner, so that you have not been so hungry throughout the day. That'll really help you with overeating. Tip number two, being present with your family and friends and focusing on enjoying the company you're with can really help with overeating, because instead of focusing so much on the food, because you're already fed, like you already ate a meal that day, so you can actually enjoy the conversation instead of obsessing over the food that will be served during that day. So by really interacting with friends, family, being present, and focusing on trying to like make the best conversations, that will give you a chance to digest your food slower while you're eating. And by doing that, you feel when you're full a little more quickly, because you're not shoving as much food in as possible to really, you can be with the moment basically. And it just gives you the chance to focus on things that are more important. So tip number three, this is one of my favorites because I have always felt kind of off guard when I go to different like holiday parties or Thanksgiving dinners, when I don't know what's going to be served, so I don't know what I'm going to eat. So I like to choose my food ahead of time and say, like, these are the ones that I know that I want to try while I'm at this meal, and I enjoy those first. So for me, that tends to be like dark meat turkey. It's one of my favorites at Thanksgiving. And I could pass on mashed potatoes, which is not true of like my sister or my husband. He loves mashed potatoes. And so for them, that's one of theirs they always want, but I want sweet potatoes. So I tend to opt for those before mashed potatoes because I'm more likely to enjoy it and feel satisfied from it. There's also other parts of that meal that I never skip out on and parts that I could pass entirely. Like I could go my entire life without eating cranberry sauce forever. But for my mom, that's one of her favorite meals or parts of the meal. So that really is something to think about before you sit down to dinner. Reach out to the host if it's not you making the meal. Ask them what's on the menu. And if there's something that you would like there that they haven't mentioned, offer to bring it. That's usually totally acceptable at Thanksgiving. I know in our house, we tend to do kind of a potluck style where we all bring something, because that way it's not all on one person to make the entire meal. So it really gives us a chance to know what's going into it ahead of time. But by reaching out to the host, say, hey, I'd love to know what's on the menu for tomorrow or whatever it's coming up. And by knowing that, you can choose ahead of time, like, hey, I want to make sure that I have pumpkin pie. So if I'm getting full and they haven't served pie yet, I need to save some room because I don't want to feel overly stuffed this Thanksgiving, and just be conscious of that ahead of time. So tip number 4 today is to remember that you can always have leftovers. Most of the time, there is going to be some of whatever your favorite foods are left over at the end of the meal that you can take home with you or that you can eat the next day. And this is really important because you don't have to eat everything in one sitting. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to eat it. And I know that is very hard for many of us, but it's totally true. Also, if you don't like leftovers all that much, but there's a part of Thanksgiving dinner that you always overeat because you never have it during the year, maybe make a point of making it a few times more per year so that you don't feel the need to overeat it at Thanksgiving, because you have permission to eat any foods you want whenever you want them, especially like as an adult, you can eat however you want to, but that means you don't have to wait until Thanksgiving to enjoy that favorite Thanksgiving food. You can have it whenever you want during the year. So if you're not into leftovers, go ahead and decide right now that you're going to make mashed potatoes and gravy more often throughout the year, so it's not a one-time thing. I don't make mashed potatoes and gravy, and it drives Tyler nuts. So it's one of the ones where he reminds me, like, we can eat those during the rest of the year, and I always just forget about it because it's not that important to me where it is to him. So the other last tip for this podcast episode or this YouTube video, depending on where you're watching it, is tip number 5: prioritize protein and produce / fiber. They kind of go hand in hand if you can. So most likely your meal is already going to have fat with it because gravy is made with the fat from the turkey. You might end up having pie where there's lots of butter in the pie crust, rolls with butter. You're probably not lacking on fat during this meal. So what I would recommend is prioritizing protein, which could be turkey if that's what your family wants, or it could be pretty much any type of meat. If you're not doing turkey, you could do roast beef, whatever. Whatever that looks like for you. You may be vegetarian, so you don't eat meat. And in that case, there's probably still going to be protein options available. So prioritize that first. And then make sure there's at least some sort of produce or fiber on your plate. Now, the fiber could look like nuts and seeds in a harvest salad. It could be, I'm trying to think. I wrote out a list of different fiber options earlier today, but now I'm having a hard time remembering them. Any type of produce does have fiber in it. So if you're feeling like you're lacking in fiber, bulk up more on the vegetables. Whole grains, whole grain like rolls, whole grain bread, whatever that looks like. Maybe you have rice at Thanksgiving. If it's wild rice, we've done that before with apples in it. That would totally end up being your fiber source, and that's fine. And you really, by focusing on protein, produce, fiber, you're going to feel satisfied, you're going to feel full, and the goal here is to eat those first and then have your extras like pie, other desserts, stuff like that, that isn't quite as healthy for you, but you still want to enjoy it because you can still have those foods even while losing weight. It's totally doable, especially when you're listening to your hunger and fullness cues. Okay, so this was a lot that we went through over the past couple of minutes together. Go ahead and let me know what of these tips feels like the most helpful. And you can message me on Instagram at weightloss.habits.nutritionist, or you can email me, Mallory@dailyhabitsnutrition.com. And if you feel like you need more support during this holiday season to lose your weight while still enjoying your favorite foods, I am accepting one-on-one clients, and I'd love to work with you. So you can find that with my chat about coaching link. I'll make sure that I drop that here in the show notes so that you can find that, so we can work together if that's something you'd like to do. I'd love for you to apply. I would love to help you through this process of learning how to incorporate all of your favorite foods while you lose weight. All right, thank you so much for watching today's training on tips for preventing overeating during Thanksgiving. If you liked today's video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future trainings like this one. All right, I will talk to you next time.